So I'm just chilling in the greenhouse this morning, and I'm just about to pick out my early tomatoes, the ones that are going to go in the hanging baskets in the greenhouse that have currently got the lettuces in them. And and a couple of them might go on this grow bench if I need extra space. I'm going to be planting them into these container-wise modules. They're ribbed. It's got a bit of a root training effect. Not that that matters so much with tomatoes. They're so vigorous, regardless of what you do to them, really, they're going to grow. But these are the ones I just used for the peppers. The peppers grew quite well. I've just potted the peppers on. So I think I'm going to use them for the tomatoes as well. I'm just potting them into multi-purpose compost. It's quite damp, but I will be watering them in a little bit, only lightly watering. I always like to err on the side of not over watering young seedlings. It's very easy to get damping off problems with seedlings. This is just cheap multi-purpose compost. I think it's called Erin Excel. It's the cheapest one from my local garden centre, and I think it's 3 bags for, I don't know, £18 or something like that. So it's not really cheap, but it's cheap enough. It's a lot cheaper than specialist composts. And it's got a lot. It's very rough. It's got a lot of wood in it and all of that sort of thing. But I think it's going to be just fine for the tomatoes. It won't be in it for that long actually, because they'll soon be potted on into the big pots. I'll show you those in a second. And then, as I said, go into the hanging baskets. Probably go into the hanging baskets about mid-April, and hoping for a harvest in June. They worked really well in here last year. I had to heat the greenhouse to about 10 degrees in sort of mid-April sort of time. It does depend a little bit in terms of what the long-range weather forecast looks like. If it's just like really frosty in mid-April, I probably won't bother moving them into here. I'll keep them in the conservatory and just try and find space. But ideally, I want them out of the conservatory and in here, because it's better light in here. And obviously I just need the space. So, but it's just not worth, if it's frosty, it's just not worth trying to heat this greenhouse to sort of 10 degrees for days on end. I mean, it's fine just for the odd freak frosty day. Probably cost me a couple of pounds to do that, but it's just definitely not worth it for, if I've got a run of frosty days lasting for, a week or two or something like that, I won't do it. I'll just wait a little bit. So that's one of the reasons I like to use these root training module cells, because the plants stand in them really well because of the air pruning. So here's the tomatoes, and I'll talk you through the varieties and what I'm going to be doing with them, and so get them pricked out. So the first one that I've got in here is Red Profusion. So this is a red, surprisingly, tumbling variety, and there we go. It's looking quite nice. It's just starting to get its first true leaves. It's got a nice little root system on it, and I'm just pricking it out with my trusty bradawl, and I want to plant it kind of as deep as I can get away with, really, and to make sure it's as sort of stocky and compact as possible, which is definitely what you want if you're planting into hanging baskets. You really don't want sort of big leggy plants going into hanging baskets. So yeah, so I'm going to have a mix of tomatoes in the hanging baskets. I'm going to have the Red Profusion and the Tumbling Tom Yellows, just for a bit of variety. I find the Red Profusion do really well, and they're really tasty. And last year we got a really big harvest off them. I think we had, I can't remember, we had 5 hanging baskets and 3 pots or something there, I think. And we got like £70 worth in value, monetary value, worth of harvest off them. So that, you know, that just easily pays for anything, any heating or anything like that. So yeah, so I'm going to do 6 of these, and then I'll do a few of the hanging basket of the tumbling tom yellows as well. I don't want to do too many. Sometimes I get a bit carried away, like everybody, and get far too many plants and then pot them up and end up with so much stuff that I don't really need, and then really short of space to do other more creative and interesting things. So that's the red profusion, looking really nice. So next up, as I said, doing the tumbling tom yellows. I've only done 3 of these because the red profusion did so well. But wow, look at that little root system on that. So that is lovely. Need a bit bigger hole, I think, to get that in like that. Yeah, I love the yellow tomato. I just love variety, really. So I try and constrain myself, but I think we're still growing like 250 different varieties of fruit and veg a year, trying to get 30 different fruits and veggies in our diet each week of the year, every week of the year. So yeah, sometimes feels like a bit of a challenge, but mostly it's just a lot of fun. So that's tumbling tom yellows, and all of them had that really nice root system on them, so I'm really fussy with those. Then I'm doing sun gold and honeycomb. So sun gold's my absolute like taste favourite tomato, and we actually had the last of those on Christmas Day, so I was really pleased to achieve that. And so I'm doing a few things with these. So the first thing is they're going in the corners, here and here, once the peas go outside. So the peas are in flower now. So the first succession, the second succession is only like this high or something like that. So by mid-April anyway, peas are hardy, they'll go outside, maybe put a little bit of fleece around them just while they adjust to outside conditions. But they're going to be fine out there, so that makes space for the cordon tomatoes to go in. So I'll go 2 of them there, and I'm toying with the idea of maybe growing 1 here in a big trough or a fairly big pot, and then sort of growing it horizontally along the underside of this shelf. And I've got my first cucumbers here, and I'm planning to do the same with those. So grow them up and then along, and they can probably cross over with the tomatoes. I don't really know. I'm just going to play with it because it's, you know, that's what gardeners like to do. Play with new patterns to try and get, you know, just fuel my creative instincts. So that's the sun gold. The only issue with sun gold is they do tend to split a little bit. So it's best to sort of harvest them just before they're ripe and let them ripen off the plants, and then they're less likely to split. So I did sun gold last year, and I did 2 successions of it, and the second succession is best just taking off a sucker in sort of July time, and then potting that sucker on and then using that for your late plants. So I'll have again maybe 2, maybe 3 plants in the greenhouse, and they'll keep those going well into sort of like November time, and then we'll harvest all the fruits in November and let them ripen in the house. And basically the same with the honeycombs. So the honeycombs, again, lovely little plants, are very like sun gold, taste very similar to sun gold, but they'll split a little bit less than sun gold do. But anyway, I just broke one of the leaves on that, so fortunately I had 4 and I only need 3. I don't really need 3, I only need 1 or 2 really, but you know, it's best to have spares. And then I'm going to do the same trick with the suckers to get my main crop plants. So these are just my super earlies going into a greenhouse in April with heat, and then in May or late April I'll take suckers off those plants, and those suckers will get rooted and be used for my main crop succession. So it means I need a lot less seeds. Basically, I need just the seeds that I've used to start these, and I shouldn't need any more. And then I've got my first few Black Beauty aubergines, but I think I'm going to leave these and prick them out when I prick out my peppers. And I'm going to be doing that next week because they're a little bit too small, and not all the peppers have broken surface yet. But by the end of next week, all of them will have broken surface. They'll all be a much nicer size for pricking out. So yeah, that is the tomatoes, the super early tomatoes. It's a really nice feeling to get those on the go. And yeah, I'll just point out there's a lot going on in gardening. So much to think about, so much to keep track of. I have my solution to that I have on offer, which is my weekly newsletter. You can find it at steverichards.substack.com. There's a link to it down in the description below. It's got all the stuff in it. You know, what am I sowing? What am I pricking out? What am I potting on? What am I planting? What am I harvesting? All that sort of information. Loads of additional information, like links to sections of my ebook that are relevant for that week or month of the year. Yeah, I like writing it. People seem to like reading it, and it's free. And but you can pay if you want as a sort of contribution to my gardening efforts. My name's Steve. I'll see you soon.